Last night, you spent 2 hours deciding what to wear to the party. This morning, it'll take you 2 minutes to list it on Depop and make your money back. Just grab your phone, snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. The sheer dress and platform heels you'll never wear again? There's a birthday girl searching for them right now. Your one and done look is about to pay for your next night out. Or at least the ride home. Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're gonna crack this case and prove we're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
You are... Gary the Snake. And your last name? The Snake.
Dream Team.
And new habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home.
You're clearly working it.
Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG.
Hello and welcome to episode 412 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to royally F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I'm Giles Alderson. I'm a writer, I'm a director, and I'm a producer. And on today's show, we have the fantastic screenwriter, Rob Yescombe. Now, Rob, if you don't know, is the screenwriter of Amazon Prime's #1 movie right now, Jackpot. The movie stars John Cena and Awkwafina, and it is brilliant, really fun. Myself and Dom Lenoir sat down with Rob and had a really lovely chat all about screenwriting, all about how you can make your way in the business. We talk about why Jackpot, why it moves so quickly. We talk about development and why it's really important to have the audience be able to pitch your film for you. We talk about selling second acts and why you should have a process. We also dive into having a presence in the process and working with the amazing director, Paul Feig. Paul Feig, if you don't know, is the director of Bridesmaids. And we talk about how he went from writing on games to writing on feature films and why it's very important to pay the bills. I hope you're right. I hope you are well. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening each week. It warms the cockles of my soul to know that you listen in your thousands, and you sometimes email me and you sometimes say we enjoy this, or you leave a message on Instagram or Twitter or X. I just want to say thank you for listening the last couple of weeks, last couple of months really. Last week's episode with George Jakes and Ken Petrie talking about Black Dog, that's still out now. It's doing really well, and those two lads are incredible. If you haven't listened to that one, that is how indie filmmakers go out there and make their films and make stuff happen on whatever budget you can get. And then before that we had Michelle Monaghan, oh yeah, and Bill Lawrence, the Scrubs creator, talking about their brand new TV series Bad Monkey, and some other highlights in between those episodes. And our 400th a couple of months ago was Phil Hawkins talking about Robin and the Hoods. Again, that's still probably all over your Sky Movies when you click on that. It's such a great movie, and Phil's done such a great job. He is, as maybe I'm biased here, he is also one of our regular hosts of this podcast. And then we've had Ashley J. Sandberg, the exec producer and producer of Twisters, which did so well in the cinemas, and I'm really glad it did because it's excellent. And before that we had Jeff Nichols and Sarah Green talking about The Bike Riders, Ryan J. Condal talking about House of Dragon, he's the showrunner writer on that. And then we had Meg Thompson and Matt Brown talking about Freud's Last Session. That's just in the last couple of months. We've had some amazing guests before that. Kelly McCormick, the Fall Guy, Zack Snyder talking about Rebel Moon, Rennie Harlin talking about The Strangers and Die Hard 2. And of course, Claudia Farr and our very own Andrew Roger talking about No Way Up, which also is still in the top 10 on Amazon Prime right now. So we've had some amazing guests, and we couldn't do it without you guys keep listening and keep spreading the love. So please keep doing so. It means a lot to myself, to Dom, to Andrew, to Phil, and all the rest of our hosts as well. And we've got some more amazing guests coming up for you. But let's dive in with Rob Yescombe. Rob was a screen star of Tomorrow in 2022 and Variety's 10 Screenwriters to Watch in 2023. He did start his career in video games, working on franchises like Alien, Blade Runner, Family Guy, The Twilight Zone and Star Wars. And then after writing Farpoint for Sony, which was VR's Game of the Year, Road to VR's Game of the Year, and Rime, R-I-M-E, Titanium Game of the Year nominee, his critically acclaimed VR murder mystery, The Invisible Hours, premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Then he made his transition into writing features with Netflix's Outside the Wire, which starred Anthony Mackie. The film was a worldwide #1 hit on streaming platforms upon its release in 2021. And now Rob has written the feature film Jackpot for Amazon Studios. And like I said, the film stars Awkwafina, John Cena and Simu Liu. And it was directed by Paul Feig and was produced by Roth and Kirchenbaum and Figo Entertainment, who made Spy and A Simple Favour, which Paul Feig also directed. You're going to love this. Screenwriters, this one's for you. Filmmakers out there, this one is to learn what you can do when you're working with someone as amazing as Paul Feig and when they come in to just do a polish of your work. Where does that put you? And for the filmmakers and gamers out there, we talk about how you transition from doing something else to doing something else. And in this case, it was going from games to film. Here we go. I hope you enjoy this. This is myself, Dom Lenoir, chatting on the Filmmakers Podcast to Rob Yescombe.
Well. What do we have here? Giles, do you copy?
Hey.
There he is.
There he is. Hey,
That's
Rob.
one. Where's number two?
He's coming. He's connecting to audio.
Oh.
Oh.
He's on mute. He's off mute. There he
He's
is.
off mute. Here we
Hello.
go.
That's it.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Hello. Sorry,
I
I'm
thought
just
for a
finding
second,
my.
there, Dom, that you were shirtless, which I thought would be a...
Well, yeah, close enough.
Listen, give the
It's,
public what they want.
Yeah.
So important on a podcast. That's exactly what they want. Shirtless
Why not?
man. Can't see him.
Wait, it's a muscle tee.
Yeah.
It's a muscle.
I mean, the
tee.
muscles
let's-
aren't here, but
Well,
Show
let's-
us the muscles.
Show
Come
us the
on.
muscles, Dom. Come on.
No.
Come on. Don't
No.
pretend there's nothing there. Come
My
on.
always my phrase is always no sleeves, no problems. So
Okay.
It's a good phrase. I think it should be used
you
regularly
go quite
by
far
you,
in
Rob,
life with that.
in a film.
No sleeves, no problems. Now, I want to know what situations in life would applying that mantra improve in a tangible
Well,
way?
okay. A
Yeah.
hot day, for instance.
Hot to date.
You're out.
Yeah, that's
you're
an
outside.
easy win.
I know, but okay. So we're on the tube. London. It's 30-degree heat. Okay, maybe it's not so great for everyone else, but
Okay, here's what I want to know.
You're
If that-
close to passing out. You haven't got the sleeves. You've got no problems.
Okay, well that's an easy one, but let's go up
Yeah.
the chain. So at that end of the spectrum, a hot sunny day, yeah, no sleeves, no problem. Makes sense that would apply.
Yeah.
What about let's say, for example, the brutal murder of a family member?
Well, I mean, you've got some problems in that situation.
Let's just game it out. So,
Let's
okay,
go-
so we'll
come on,
just say, a cousin. So not not in the direct family.
Okay, yeah,
but,
yeah. Okay,
a cousin you're close to.
yeah,
let's say
someone you
gets.
don't- yeah.
All right,
You don't like them that
I can,
much.
yeah, I can riff off this though, because I mean, let's say you're in the Yakuza, you might wear this anyway, so you might just go out and have a vigilante revenge mission,
Okay.
and then you're already in costume. You don't have to change. You can go straight from the funeral to dispense justice.
Okay.
So-
In which case, let's crank up the scale. You're an astronaut on the ISS, and you get blasted out into space, and the tether breaks.
Okay, well,
No sleeves, no problems.
Right. What problems would you have now, Dom?
Exactly.
I mean,
You've
I
got the
think
guns
the
out.
sort of, I think the evaporating in 0.5 seconds from leaving the airlock would probably be the biggest problem. But
Mm.
if you're inside a suit, maybe you're a little bit cooler in there. You're not sort of melting from the sun quite
But
as much.
you're implying that the suit would have sleeves. We're talking no sleeves. It's
Yeah.
no sleeves.
Well,
The
all
answer
right,
to that.
okay. Let's just say we're armless for this situation, because
Mm,
Yeah.
mhm.
that's probably the the scientific ramifications of a.
So your
a
hope
sleeveless-
is that
yeah.
the vacuum and ice cold nature of space would break off your arms, cauterize the wound, and you just continue drifting chill
Exactly.
out into
Exactly.
the ether.
Exactly.
Great.
There we go.
Yeah.
If that's
Okay, great.
not a idea for a new film, I don't know what is.
No. I don't.
You don't know what is? Well, listen, we can work through that.
We probably should. Hence why, filmmaking podcast, screenwriting podcast. That's what we should do.
Now, are we on the podcast now? Is this part of it?
This is the podcast. Yeah, this is it.
Going out live.
People just jump straight in. Listen, I'm
this is
so
as good
sorry.
as it gets.
Anyone tuning in at this exact moment is like,
there's probably someone out there that finally feels validated about their sleeveless lifestyle. So
yeah,
Vin Diesel. Finally,
there we go.
Finally.
Although I don't know that he needs any more validation at this point.
If you're listening, Vin, there we go. This is.
What do you mean? If
he does listen, Vincent listens.
Mm-hmm.
He tweets me all
I mean,
the time.
his character is called Dom. So I mean, there's an inception there. I'm
But
sure.
which character from which?
Fast and Furious.
Right, not all his films.
Giles, please come on.
Yeah.
I was hoping you might have done an obscure reference, so it was just something he'd be like.
You thought it was him in Boiler Room?
Yeah, Boiler Room.
I mean, it could be Riddick. He also, I mean, Riddick's a very hot environment. That's probably why he wears a sleeveless garment anyway.
That's true. Or The Bouncer, his first short that he made that got him the attention of Spielberg.
Wow,
that got him
I'm
on.
feeling an intense urge to organise this conversation.
You're going to organise it, Rob, please.
Who are we? What are we doing? And what are people being forced to listen to right now?
I'm so glad you asked. It's finally time we had this. This is like 400 and
I feel like you might have been a slight instigator of the tangent.
I believe this is your fault.
Clear that up.
No, that's do not go to the tape on that one.
Yeah. So look, we had such a great time at the screening of Jackpot, and your chat afterwards with Paul Feig on stage was fantastic. And I turned to Dom and went, wouldn't it be cool to have him on the podcast? And then lo and behold, Dom did some groundbreaking work.
Well, Mr. Woodley, I think it was, and Anthony Woodley.
Sort of the thinking man's hunk. Yes.
Oh, yes. Another hunk to join us in the ranks.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And now we have you on the podcast to talk about, obviously, a screenwriting, but Jackpot as well. But this is a podcast, Rob.
We have hit the jackpot.
Where you should have saved it.
I wanted to just get it in early.
It's true. He's got a pun in
burning desire all the way.
Burning. My pun needs to come out. I need to say it. Look, with filmmakers, we talk about filmmaking. Our listeners care about how to make films, how to write films, how to get them out there, get them seen. Your story's fascinating and wonderful and incredible. What you've managed to do and achieve, and we want our listeners to understand that, learn from it, and hopefully go out and do it themselves, and then come on the podcast and tell us about it and tell us how amazing we are for letting them be inspired by us with no, sleeveless wonders that we are.
Exactly. Yeah. And you are held in good regard from the whispers of the industry as a good down to earth, maybe sleeve not so partial guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit I'm rethinking. I've got two sets of sleeves on for anyone listening, t-shirt and overshirt.
I know. Denim. What's going on?
Rob, it's warm.
Yeah.
What's the thought process?
It is warm. I'm currently in sunny Los Angeles, no less. I've got and listen, please don't judge me poorly. I put the air conditioning on, got too cold, and then put another layer on, in spite of the fact there's 100 degrees outside.
I'm
not managing it well. I'm not managing.
That's how you know you're LA.
Yeah. You're a British man
100%.
in LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm also the only person in LA who wears shorts.
That's so strange.
What do they wear?
As soon as it's
trousers,
hot. Why?
Pants. Because over here, like, they're used to it. But for me, I'm like, if it's over in real money, if it's over 18 degrees, I'm getting the 5 inches.
Summer.
Come on.
Yeah, you've got to have those 5 inches out. People want to see it.
People want to see the 5 inches.
Yeah. Rob slowly drinks his coffee.
I mean, I feel like I don't want to create another tangent here, but you could say no leg material, no problem as well. For short.
I'm going to say it's not as catchy as the original. I would say
catchy,
sometimes you hit it big straight out of the gate, and you just need to bank on what you had.
That's screenwriting for you. Right there.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, smell what's told. Right. Okay.
So let's talk about screenwriting.
Let's use it. Let's get into writing, because otherwise we could talk sleeveless wonders for ages.
Could talk nonsense for an hour. I mean, I'd be quite happy to, but I also do want to hear your remarkable stories of script writing mastery. I mean, let's talk about Jackpot. How did it happen? How did you get this script to Paul and up on the screen at the size and scale that it is, and what were the forming steps of getting there?
It's interesting because I would love to tell a big complicated war story, but somehow this one was surprisingly smooth, which is that I was having dinner with my UK agent Nish Panchal at Curtis Brown.
Nice.
Said, "Hey, I got this idea for a movie. This is a big movie. I should write this." And he said, "Yeah." And then that meant I had to write it.
That's the problem.
Which obviously is, for anyone out there, is the worst part of the job, right? It's the writing. Wrote the script, gave it to him. He had a meeting with a US agent called Martin Spencer, who said, "Hey, is there anyone that I should be reading that I'm not reading?" Passes him the script. The following day, Martin says, "Hey, are you signed in the US?" I said, "No." Signed with Martin. The following day, he sends it to Jeff Kirschenbaum at RK Films. The following morning, 7:30 a.m., calls Martin on the Saturday and says, "We want to do the movie." So it was that part that happened incredibly quickly as far as getting people who wanted to be part of it. But of course, then Jeff at RK Films, he spent the next like 2.5 years actually putting the film together, which is another matter. But John Cena was on pretty much from the beginning. Stuck with it through a lot of development, all good development, I should add. We can talk about that in a minute. And then Awkwafina Nora came on later in the process, but both of them were attached before the script went to Paul. And what was interesting about it is that when I was writing it, I was looking at Spy, The Heat, Bridesmaids, saying, "Okay, this is the benchmark."
Yeah, Paul's.
And we try and at least, if we can get halfway there, we're doing well. So it's just an incredible confluence of good fortune that Jeff had just finished making a film with Paul, knew him well, liked him very much, and just passed it to him. The way that Paul tells the story is he hated the title that was on the script at the time so much that he was like, "I don't know, I don't want to read it." But really, I think, and then the way he tells it is, his producing partner Laura Fisher said, "Hey, you should read this thing." He read it, and 40 pages in, said he wanted to do it. But I think he's being. I
remember the anecdote. I remember it.
He's being pithy about it, but I think really what was happening is that when he heard the concept of the movie, for anyone who doesn't know what the concept is, it's about a sort of dystopian future where if you play the lottery and win, everybody with a losing ticket has 24 hours to kill you and take the money. And when he heard that concept, he thought it was going to be like a cynical, dark, miserable movie. So that's why he was like, "Oh, I don't want to read it." And then when Laura read it, she was like, "Oh, this is fun." Because in the writing of it, I was like, well, we've seen a lot of miserable, dark dystopias. We know they're miserable and dark, but also they're fucking stupid. Yeah. And that's also something that we should explore. So that's really what the vibe of the movie is. And also that Paul and I had independently, before we even met, had been going back and watching old Jackie Chan movies, because there's something about that old style of action, that very particular style of action that Jackie does, that it's not about the gore or the violence or the bloodshed. It's about the joy of action, the circus of action, celebration of motion and creativity. And that's the sensibility we want to bring back into it.
Just to quickly go on to the stupidity before we got on to the wonderful action stuff. Because I mean, some of the jokes were very good industry jokes, but there was also quite a lot of very like LA jokes that were especially funny, but also felt like just so pinpoint accurate. Was it difficult as a British person, like writing for America and like that kind of specific kind of subculture of the industry? Was it like, a mixture of experiences and being out there, or just genius from the ether?
You're very kind to say. I think, so people have been kind to say that it's a pretty good depiction of a particular type of underbelly in LA. But look, I was, and in many ways still am, a struggling artist, right? You're always struggling even when you've had some success.
Sure.
We'll talk about that too.
Struggling with the air conditioning.
Not at all. That's the one win I have. But the danger of being taken advantage of is not exclusive to LA. And we split. My wife's Californian, so we spend a lot of time over here. But before I met her and before we started doing that, I was trying to get stuff made in the UK. Spend a lot of time networking in London, where you're like, well, I have no idea who actually has currency and is who they say they are, can do what they say they can do. I'm working for free, but like, why is this a person I can really trust to do something? So it's I think it's an experience that anyone who's trying to make it has probably had some version of that.
I think the journey is the hardest bit. The journey it's the weird, wonderful world of indie filmmaking where you don't know where something's going to turn. Your story of Jackpot, and you brushed over it so wonderfully, was the fact that you wrote this. Your agent liked it. So suddenly you got an American agent. They sent it to the right RKA, who sent it to whoever, and suddenly Paul's reading it via his assistant, and that sounded like, oh well, like you said, like really simple, and all the struggle that goes into so many other things. And sometimes in this industry, things can happen like that. You just send it to the right person who reads it and loves it, and it usually comes down to the writing. It usually comes down to the concept and who likes it at the time. And if you send it to the right team, and it seems like that's what happened here. And it is a brilliant script. I mean, me and Don were laughing our asses off in the cinema. We had an absolute ball. And this cinema included Jason Statham and Louis Theroux in it as well, who won the raffle.
I was sitting just down I was sitting one seat away from Statham, and it was fascinating hearing the parts that he clearly enjoyed the most. The part where so there's a fight scene in the karate dojo where Cena grabs like the black belt off one of these guys, uses it to whip them Indiana Jones style. But when he whips one of them on the arse, that was the part that Statham absolutely loved. His laugh booming out as someone getting whipped on the arse with a karate belt.
Do you know what I loved about the Statham thing? And it's like it's a really sort of film geek culture thing. He won like one of those visual doorbell things in the raffle prize. And like whenever I think of Jason Statham, like the resounding image in my mind is in the transporter when there's that, knocking at the door, you see the guy's face go up to the doorbell, looks through the window, and then suddenly like Jason Statham's like kicking the door down. I thought like what a great little in joke for Jason's door.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want the same thing to happen to him.
No. Yeah, he literally won the doorbell. I mean, I love the fact that they kept winning. People who were like, anyone at the back.
I wanted to say that in your description there, Giles, that write the script, pass it on, gets the full. There is an interim period, which is from when it goes to Jeff at Arcade Films, then there's development, then it goes. So there is a big chunk in the middle there that is like 17, 18 drafts of work before it gets
Talk us through that bit, because that's what we want to know, right? Because it sounded like a dream. It sounded amazing, and it is a bit of a dream because like you say, the film is out. I think be now by the time this podcast comes out, and it is fantastic and funny and hilarious. And this is going to do wonders for you and your world. And I think so because you've written a fantastic script and you are the only writer on it. Talk us through that moment then when Arcade got it and they're interested and maybe they optioned it. Talk us through if they did, and also what the process was with those 17, 18 drafts, what you went through and the heartache and pain of ripping apart your baby and starting again with it.
Actually, no. Again, so even though there's a lot of work there, so for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, people don't even know who I am. My name is Rob Yescombe. I've been before I got into movies, I've been a video game writer and designer for almost 20 years. And I've had the experience of being written on top of. I've had the experience of writing on top of other people. I'm very cognizant of the challenges around that. And in that development period with Arcade, yes, there were lots of drafts, but all those drafts were writing towards achieving a package. By which I mean, if you want to bring on director X or cast Y, those people are going to have thoughts and feelings about what they think the movie should be. And the thing that's important, that yes, it's important to have interest in maintaining the sensibility of your own work, but the successful writer says yes and, which for anyone who doesn't know is a tenement of improv, that you don't say no when someone makes a suggestion. You try and take it on, say, well, yes, and here's how we can embellish. So that you try and force yourself into collaboration, even if you feel in the moment, I'm not so comfortable with this particular idea over that one. But the part of that experience that was great was that the development team at Arcade understands that part of that job for them is let's say mathematical, which is about how do we assemble the package, who wants what. Part of it is creative, about how they feel about what the script should be, and also the attachments that they want to try and put onto it. And the other part is management, because even as someone who tries, like myself, who tries to take a sort of academic approach to development and say, well, okay, none of this is personal, right? We're all trying to get to the same finish line.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be like, well, what about me in this? Like, why is my opinion less valuable than this other person's opinion? And they understand the managerial aspect of development. It's very, very, very rare to find a development partner who is good at all three of those things. And that's one of the things that makes them who they are, is that they are very smart to the point where they could do most of it themselves if you really left them to it. But they're also very empathetic with the artists they work with. And that's what is the special sauce at Arcade.
Yeah.
So those 17 drafts were not them saying, well, what if we move the chair to the right? And what if we move the toilet to the left? It wasn't one of those. They were always decisive, always precise. But it was like, hey, this person who we're trying to attach needs this, or this director who we want to attach needs that. I don't want to dig into the people who came on and off the movie, but there were 2 or 3 packages that came together and then fell apart over the process of.
Can we talk a little bit about the structure, if we can't talk about necessarily, like, you know, because obviously, like, dialogue tweaks, action tweaks for directors, those kinds of things that kind of makes sense. You know, but what was the sort of the structure when you took it to RK initially versus where you're into the next stage of the puzzle, or maybe even further along? You know, sort of final drafts.
The structure is usually not something. If you're going with a fairly polished draft in the beginning of development, which is how I like to do it. I don't like to go in with something half baked. I go with something that's fully baked and then take on opinion. So in that sense, the structure didn't really change much. It was more about tone and budget control. So certain actors who came on and came off, and certain directors who came on and came off, were either more to the action end of the spectrum or the comedy end of the spectrum. And so you're kind of moving the needle for those people as you go through development.
Yeah.
As far as budget controls go, you know, the movie, as you saw, is very tight, very lean. We're trying to do something really propulsive, that it's 100 miles an hour right out the gate. So for instance, there was a thread in there in the original draft that explored the idea of if 2 people have the same numbers in the lottery, they split the jackpot. And so in the original draft, there was like a B story about the second winner who realizes, hey, if I kill Awkwafina, I double my jackpot. So that became like an extra villain in the story that we ended up cutting. But that was budgetary rather than you know, someone's creative view on it.
I mean, it's very good that you're working on the budget side at this stage of the writing. But then I suppose that there is an element of that where you're doing lots of changes that are then going to be undone and rechanged, and then a producer is going to solve those sort of problems anyway. I mean, it's great that you're able to think with that business mind, because I suppose you are saving the producers a lot of like pain and suffering, and you know, making it sort of a marketable package at every stage of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because even with the best instincts in the world, you can't be 100% sure what is necessary. For instance, there's a scene in the movie that you see a bit of in the bloopers at the end credits that I not fought for, but I was like, I think we really need this for narrative flow. Ended up being cut from the movie. You didn't need it. Not a complex scene or an expensive scene, which is why they still shot it. But you know, once you get in the edit, it's amazing how much writing happens.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I didn't need any of this, or I needed something that I didn't get, or any, you know, all that stuff. The assembly is very revealing.
Yes, it is. I always find it like that the third part of writing, or the third part of making the movie, is that edit period where you suddenly go, well, cut out those lines. He or she's doing it with a reaction. Why do we need to say that? Or we need a bit more explanation. The audience doesn't understand this bit. And when you're writing it,
even a piece of music can get you where you're trying to get.
Yes, totally right. Yeah, and you don't know that when you're writing, because you might think about what kind of music it is, but you don't know whether you're going to get the rights for it. It's different when you're watching visuals. Let's go back to your writing process, which will bring us back to Jackpot. So at that moment where you're speaking to agent Curtis Brown and you've mentioned this idea, how long did it take to get that first draft done, and what is your process in that to, you know, get it to where it wants to be? Do you do scriptments? Do you do outlines? Talk us through your actual screenwriting process.
Well, because my background's in games, that's a very informative element of it, which is that when you're designing a game, you're mostly looking for a core rule that's going to be an engine for different types of fun. So if you look at a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street, right, the rule is if you go to sleep, Freddy's going to get you. An incredible rule to just generate content that is very interesting and very specific to that concept. And from that, well, I'm definitely going to get 6 interesting sequences out of if I go to sleep, Freddy's going to get me, which means I'm going to get a good trailer. And crucially, it's an idea that's very easy to pitch, because ultimately, the success or failure of a movie, no matter how much money studio spends marketing the movie, its success basically comes down to a conversation between 2 people, one of whom has seen the movie, the other one hasn't. They say, what's the movie about? Mm-hmm. And if the answer to that question is not so laser beam precise that the stranger can pitch it successfully on our behalf, then we're in trouble. Yeah. So for me, it's all about designing backwards from how content is consumed and how it's communicated. When I was working as a creative director in games, the first department I wanted to talk to was marketing. People said I was crazy. But the fact is, if we cannot sell it, what are we doing? Yes, the cathartic, artistic, honest, emotional core, the nucleus of it, is essential. But if we don't know how to make people interested in watching it, then we're spending other people's money thoughtlessly. And that's the part that I'm also very cognizant of. I just want to say this as an aside.
Yeah, that's great.
The day I arrived on set for Jackpot, everybody's saying, "Oh, isn't it so cool? Oh, it's so cool. Here's John Cena doing the lines. There's Awkwafina doing the lines. There's Simi doing the lines." Yes, that is exciting, and it's wonderful to see your words come to life and all the stuff that people talk about. To me, the part I am most excited about was walking on that set and seeing 600 people employed, paying their mortgages, putting food on the table, putting kids through school. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I say that because I'm, yes, this is only movie number 2, but I've worked on lots and lots of games over the years. So yes, the excitement of your thing coming to life is still important. It does drive you, but there is no higher honor than helping other artists pay their bills. That's the part I'm excited about.
Yeah,
such a great outlook.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Also, that tangent has made me forget what I was talking about.
Yeah, which was about your screenwriting.
Yes. Okay. So the rule concept. So here, hitting on that rule of, okay, you win the jackpot, but everybody else can continue to take it. Just a very simple concept that I know is going to make different types of fun. No, it's going to make an interesting trailer. No, that's easy for people to pitch. Because I'm very conscious, having also worked in games. I've worked at some very data-driven companies, and I'm very cognizant of what's going on in all likelihood in the UI behind Netflix or Amazon, which is that the odds of a user rowing across 5, columning across 10, landing on the tab, and that converting to a full view, the odds are pretty low. And the way that studio mostly de-risks that is with cast, who are very expensive, or with premise that's free. So as a writer, that I take on as a creative and fiscal responsibility. Let's make a concept that is going to make this easy to communicate, to reach people.
I mean, is that something you sort of come up against? Because I mean, that whole algorithmic approach, in a way, like, I understand why it's there, but I think a lot of films and TV shows suffer greatly because they're kind of troped concepts that somehow lose their personality, and this doesn't sort of feel like that. I mean, how do you sort of juggle those 2 things? I mean, obviously that you've talked about the concept, which is like very, very strong, and that's a sort of positive element, but yeah, I mean, it's a difficult balance, isn't it? I suppose getting.
Well, we never had algorithmic interference from the studio. They never said, at 15 minutes, put this in. We never had any of that. I'm not even sure that really happens in a meaningful way. What I can say is the concept is clean enough and deranged enough, pleasantly deranged enough, that it's hard to make that into something banal, I think. I mean, I try my best, but
yeah.
No. But that I think is important, that you're trying to find something that can cut through, and that's not to denigrate other approaches, but to me that feels like as close to a scientific process as I can muster.
Right. Okay. So cool concept and stuff, and then where do you go from there? I suppose, do you start plotting it out? Do you just verbal diarrhea it out? What is your process?
So for me, I'm very conscious also that, broadly speaking, Hollywood is not selling first and third acts; they're selling second acts. because that's really what your trailer is. Hey, here are the fun high moments that expose the premise in a fun way. So the first thing for me is, what's the second act? Even before you even get necessarily to like big movements on character, you're saying, okay, are there? And this is talking about action and action comedy, which is really, this is a method that's really specific to that. Which is, okay, are there 5 or 6 sequences that could not happen in another movie? If we can get that from the premise, then I think you're onto something. And then you can say, okay, that's the parts that are going to sell this product. Now let's talk about what gives the product meaning. And then you're into, well, okay, given the subject of the movie, in this case, wealth disparity, right? What therefore could be the theme that we could try and explore? And then you get into the parts that really feel like maybe what people think of as like real writing, right? Which is trying to, explore a question that's hard to answer. And from that, you're going to figure out, well, okay, if it's interesting actually talking about theme, because I think that it's a word that everybody uses, but I think if people have different definitions of it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
For me, I'm very conscious of the difference between, and maybe Jackpot is not the best example, but just as a writer broadly, I'm very conscious of the difference between subject and theme. To me, theme is a morally slanted question to which there is no clear binary answer. And I think of, like, if you look at a movie like The Dark Knight, I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing at the heart of that movie is probably a question that's something like, what is justice? And you can't say justice is yes, you can't say justice is no. There's no binary answer. And you have Rachel Dawes, who believes that the law is justice. Then you got Commissioner Gordon, who says, well, the law is justice, but I'm going to let Batman do what he does, but I won't do that because that's not my justice. And then you got Batman, who will drop Eric Roberts off a fire escape and break his legs, but he won't kill him because that's not justice. And then you've got the Joker, who believes that chaos is justice. And then you've got Harvey Dent, who travels from one end of the spectrum to the other. And you can put any of those characters in any scene, in any combination, and they always have something that is thematically relevant to conflict about. They're not arguing over like what kind of sandwich they like. They're arguing over theme. That to me is the next most important thing to try and get into. And how high up in the mix theme exists, that's a variable as you go through. It's okay if it ends up getting buried under subject or getting buried under sequence. But I think it's the thing that gives you a feeling like you have a sort of artistic backbone in what you're trying to do. Even in something as wild and weird as what we did with Jackpot, it's still there way, way under the surface.
How did you sort of arrive at such a broad and encompassing understanding of story? I mean, was it sort of through your video game background? Were you studying writing when you were starting out? Because I mean, you've got a very, very precise understanding of story, which is obviously essential as a writer, but also of the marketplace and how the two interact. And I think it's really refreshing, because I think a lot of the time writers, directors, they're sort of sometimes removed from the producing side of things.
I think the instigation of that was catastrophic failure, which is that when I came into the games industry as a writer, the barrier for entry was incredibly low. This is 20 years ago. There basically were not writers who worked exclusively in games. There was games writing, but it was mostly being done by a coder or a designer kind of giving it a go. Being just a games writer was just like a job we were inventing as we went along, and there were only a handful of us in the world at that time. That meant that there was no one to say what was true, which is that I had tons of enthusiasm, but no craft. And I worked on a very high-profile, expensive product that I catastrophically fucked up because I didn't have the chops. And after that disaster, I was like, holy shit, I got to analyze what happened here. And I had to face the reality, which was that the white-hot magnesium burn of your artistic passion is an essential component of your success. But if that is the only thing in the engine, you ain't going to get off the ground. You have to be able to communicate process first to yourself, and then to the litany of people that you're going to have to collaborate with in the process of making something that is spending other people's money. So I will never again, be like, just trust me, I'm going to white page it. Like that is not a way. That's not to say good things can't happen for writers who work that way, but that process excludes collaborators. And this is a collaborative medium. So I think if that is your process, I think it's worth putting it under the microscope and say, well, look, what's really happening here? Am I actually doing this because I'm secretly insulating myself from the reality that I need to work with other people?
I mean that's a fascinating, bit of self-reflection. Not to mention everything else. But I mean, in terms of the writing, what you just discussed, what form did that take? Was that reading books? Was that reading other people's scripts? Was it like, I mean, what was that studying process that
all
got you
of the
from A to
above,
B?
all of the above,
okay.
because that failure, I mean, truly, that was, I was under the rubble of that failure, and it took me a long time to claw my way out, partly emotionally, but also, academically, to say, well, okay, what is it I need to learn here? I think it is. There are some successful writers who'll say, "Oh, don't read these books." They're like, no, read everything, but with a critical eye. There is no harm that can come from input as long as you have the intellectual wherewithal to filter it. And hopefully, as a writer, you have that by default. The job is dissemination. It's the curation of ideas and the curation of knowledge. So all of that input is important. People say, "Oh, don't read Save the Cat," or don't read Truby, or don't read McKee, or whatever. Read it all. You don't have to use it, but it's worth knowing also, because, by the way, the people that you may end up collaborating with, for instance, like creative execs, for them, their Bible might be McKee.
Yeah.
And if you can't talk the language, how are you going to talk them out of it into your Bible?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think it's just so important to be knowledgeable, and what's really interesting hearing you talk is that comes across your passion for it all. The way you talk and describe other films or other characters. And I suppose the question what we're getting at is here is where do you find these characters? Like you say, you had the idea for Jackpot, but you've still got to create the characters. You've still got to create Awkwafina's character within that.
Awkwafina like the water.
Awkwafina, finding Awkwafina's sort of character within that and what her journey is. Why choose these things? Why choose her to be the character she is and not a ballsy? Why have and all those kind of things which are wonderful. Which again, you probably changed maybe when Awkwafina took the part. However, it'd be really interesting to know where you started off with the character and where you thought this person would be.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50, so you can get your gym gains on, or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
I think the one thing that's constant in everything I do, and what's interesting is that even though all the movie stuff I'm doing is all action comedy, in games, because the production cycle can be 6-7 years, if you only work one genre, you ain't going to pay the bills. So I've worked across all sorts of different genres, different size of product. The two things that seem to be common as I get older and looking back is a lot of my stuff is about loneliness. And sometimes it's about the sadness of it. Sometimes it's about the sense of injustice to it. Like, why am I alone? All that stuff. By the way, I'm not particularly lonely, but it's just something that seems to keep coming up. And in Jackpot, it's really the feeling of like, these are the last two kind people in an unkind world. That they are essentially lonely and find each other. So that to me felt like a natural thing to go to.
And what's interesting about that is, as a writer, it can be lonely, right?
Yes, for sure.
You're on your own, and you've written this on your own, and you've also wrote other stuff outside the wire and bits and pieces. You probably developed that on your own, or maybe with Rowan Athali, who's been on the podcast as well in the past.
Well, actually, we were credited as a writing team, but we had never met each other until so we wrote actually separately on that movie.
No way. Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay, but then again, it's still that lonely process of writing on your own, and maybe that's why you felt like these characters. You said there you weren't particularly lonely in your own world. Perhaps that's why you write these characters, because as a writer, it can be very lonely.
Yeah, I think, well, certainly for a feature writer, I think TV is much more of a team effort.
For sure.
And I do love development, because you get to kind of come out of the cave and connect with other artists. Connect with other artists. And I do think that the thing that allows you to do that successfully is process. Have a process that's clear, that you can communicate, that you're not just saying, trust me, leave me alone for 16 weeks and I'll get back to you.
I'd like to get into the process, but I mean, just wanted to say about the whole loneliness thing. I think that's one of the real strengths of the film, is the fact that I think it's really admirable and compelling when you've got characters that have every reason to be unkind, and they've had difficult lots in life, and they haven't got those connections with people, and yet they still have the default of kindness. I think that's like, such a powerful thing to put onto screen. I think that's
the thing I was going to say about that, actually, I forgot, was that all of the stuff that I do in action, the thing I'm really taken with is trying to pour acid on the machismo. That things that all the stuff I do is very, it's very high concept action, but really the heart of the movie is trying to talk about the, let's say, normally characters in action are very characterized by what we think of as very traditional male sensibilities. And I just don't think that's additive, at least not in my life. And so I'm interested in trying to propagate a softer approach. And in the way that kind of connects back to Jackie Chan, because I think there's a warmth in what he does. And I'm trying to sort of take that and grow something, to say something more specific about why that warmth is there and why it should be there.
Just to finish off the process idea, because you're talking about communicating process. What is your process in terms of, like, when you are, you've been given X amount of time, do you just sort of disappear off, and do you give updates? Okay, well, I'm this point in the story. Do you have sounding boards of people that you're sending stuff to, or is it kind of, okay, look, it's going to be done this time, then I'll show you a draft, and then we'll sort of take notes? I mean, how do you like to sort of navigate that?
It depends where we are in development. I mean, as far as writing a spec, which is mostly what I do, which is you write a spec, and then, which means no one's paying you to do it, in case anyone doesn't know what that means. And then you try and go out and sell it, or try and get it optioned, and then try and get it into development, or get a sale in the studio, whatever it may be. In the spec process, that's something I do at home by myself. I say, okay, here's the concept. I want to try and grow it into a screenplay. I always outline in extreme detail. I don't start a script until I have maybe 30 pages of an outline that's very prescriptive. In the act of writing that first draft, I'm going to discover that a lot of that is wrong. But I still need it to be there to be like, oh no, I took the wrong turn there. The person who reads the work is my wife,
really?
who is she's an editor, and so is naturally is the right person for that gig. If I can make her laugh, I know that I did something. When she's reading it, I hide in the next room and just listen. Is there a laugh happening?
The breathing for the
So has the breathing changing? Was that a huff out of the nose? What was that? I'm listening for that.
Hiding in the cupboard.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean that's all the validation I need. The rest is professional. So once I've got a bit of validation from her, I'm like, okay, great. She's a very good note giver, understands what I'm trying to achieve, and so before anything goes out, I'll apply her insight almost exclusively. Then that will go to my team, which is my UK and US reps. They'll have a couple of notes. We'll execute on those, and then we'll try and take it out. Once you find someone that you're going to partner with as a producer, that person is inevitably going to have notes. Then you're into the process of saying, okay, how do I like to receive notes? I think that for me, the best process is, don't send me a document of the notes. Let's get on the phone, talk about your feelings about this, and then we kind of iterate together on what we think the notes should be based on their insight. So you may find, the question that I find most useful in the development process to keep asking is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Because sometimes you can get into a thing to say, like, well, this character is going to reach into their pocket, they're going to get this thing out, and they're going to do this, and you end up getting caught into the minutiae of how to make those specific ideas work, and forget, well, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Why do we start this? Oh, it's because we need their pocket to be empty. Okay, we'll give them a pair of pants that doesn't have pockets on it.
Yeah,
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, they wear sleeveless tee. That I think is really important. What is the problem we're trying to solve?
There we go.
Coming back to that,
another use for the sleeves.
Of course, got to bring it back. So once we've discussed the function of the notes, we discuss possible execution of the notes. Doesn't mean you have to follow that, but it helps you get insight into what is the function of the note. then I'll take that away. Usually what will happen is I request then that they send a document that is a summation of the notes they came with in their head on the call, that now that document is edited based on the phone call that we had. So now we've got sort of essentially notes that we created together.
Yes.
Then send me the doc and I can work through that. The process not everybody does it that way, but that's how Arcade does it, and that to me is the benchmark. That's the way to do it. Anybody who's an exec listening, that's the way to do it. Don't just be like, send a doc. Don't just do the phone call and expect me to take the notes and execute them. Like, that can all work, but it's much harder and slower than get on the phone, talk through your notes, make a new doc that is our collaborative notes, then take it to execution. For me personally, I'm not interested in the notes document being full of extraneous language. I want bullet points. But that can be hard as an exec to write without feeling like you're being an arsehole. So the first thing I do with that document is I edit the notes doc into bullet points. So they might give me a whole paragraph on like, this character should feel in this way. You just say, character is now X. Done. Okay, that's now a bullet point. We're going to work through this and take as much of the emotion out of it as you can. I mean, you're going to put it into the writing, but the process of like, getting hung up on a turn of phrase in notes or any of that stuff, I dispensed with all of that years ago.
Right. How do you do? Go on, Karen.
No, just edit the notes doc, get it into bullet points, execute the notes, send it back. That's it. Right. Keep it professional, keep it moving.
So what happens if you get a note you don't agree with, or you've discussed it and they're adamant that we want it this way, but you're kind of like, it doesn't really work for the story or the character or the art?
Well, I think it comes back to the question, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And if we fundamentally disagree about a problem that needs to be solved, well, they probably, that for me is an unlikely event, because if they've read the script and say, we want to get behind this, broadly speaking, they like what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
An exec, generally speaking, does not want to take on something they don't like and try and like claw a concept out of a script that they hate.
Yeah,
that's too much labor.
Yeah, never got time.
So you don't, as long as you bring it back to that question, most of the time you're going to get through that challenge. And sometimes you have to remember, it's a job, and sometimes if they're paying you, do it. That's important too. And by the way, if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh no, if it's not something that you feel passionate enough to walk away from, but you feel frustrated and you're going to execute, okay, do it. Get on to the next one, because a career is not one script. It's 20, it's 25. Let's go. Got to get up, get those numbers up.
Yeah.
Got to keep moving.
Do you ever have moments where the execs or whatever sort of powers it be are trying to implement something that is just something because they think it's funny and there's ego involved, and they're not really interested in hearing a solution that works? I mean, like, one of the worst things in movies is when there's like a canned laughter kind of moment where like something that character shouldn't do is like thrown in because it's like a quick gag, or we need to have a lighter moment here and it doesn't quite work. I mean, do you ever struggle with that stuff? I mean, it sounds like you're so good at communicating that you can always divert it into the story and the characters, but it would be interesting to know if you'd ever had those challenges.
I think it's also important to remember that in the tapestry of making a movie, if somebody's like, oh, I want to put this joke in, or I want to pull this joke out, there were jokes that I loved that got pulled out of Jackpot.
Wow.
I will say there was one that got pulled out and then got put back in a later.
Yeah.
I was very thrilled that they did that independently. But I'll talk about that joke in a minute. But I think that it's important to remember how many ingredients are going into building this thing. Every line is an ingredient, and that's just on the page. And then we've got all the stuff that's going to go into it in the design and the shooting and the editing and the execution of the movie. In the end, probably that thing that you're like really fixated on, you got the microscope out and you're looking at this one fucking line, probably doesn't matter. That actually, if you can say, okay, I'm going to let that slide, if we really are just talking about, a handful of individual moments, and it's not something that is catastrophic for the script, letting it go, saying yes and just accepting the change and accepting and trusting the talent of your partner is going to get you a lot further down the line than saying, everybody stop, because this joke isn't funny to me.
Yes.
That, I think, it has its place if it's really important. But most of the time, if you cast your mind forward to the movie in its final form, probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can get hung up so much on the minutiae sometimes, especially on set as well.
And most of the time, that's just about a desire for control, a desire for presence in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the thing that gives you presence in the process is communication. It's not, I wrote this line, don't touch it. It's, let me tell you how we can work together.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gives you presence in the process. And that comes from study.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about Paul Feig and what he brought to the table when he came on board, because obviously, I love Paul Feig, the work he's done, Bridesmaids, the list goes on, The Heat, you mentioned Spy earlier, Freaks and Geeks, the list goes on with him to go back. When the word came that he was interested, was that perfect for you? And right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was I going to say? No, no, it was amazing.
Were you because you mentioned there that a lot of his work was an influence early on for you? Were you aiming for Paul? Did you try and will it towards Paul, or was it just luck?
It was total luck, and well, I say not luck. I mean, it was
skill. And
I didn't think of Paul. It was Kirsch, Jeff Kirschbaum at Arcade Films, who thought of Paul. I certainly didn't have the connection there. So it's really thanks to them. And the thing that's so remarkable about Paul, not only a great and interesting and funny and kind, I should also stress, guy, and I want to talk about the importance of that in a minute. People know him as a director. He's a very talented comic actor and a very talented comic writer. He started out as an actor before he became a director, in fact. And usually what happens on a project is once the director comes on, they're like, okay, and they say, I'm going to do my draft.
Yes.
You're like, okay, I get it. I've been in the position where it is very hard to come on as the second writer or fifth writer or whatever it is on a project and not smash to pieces what came before so that you can understand it to assemble it and make it yours in the way that you can control the pieces. It's not personal. It's just that is academically, scientifically, it's very hard not to break it in order to reconstruct it. The thing that was, so when Paul came on and said he was going to do his draft, I was like, well, okay, go with God. It's going to be what it's going to be. The thing that is so remarkable about him is that when I got his draft back, my jaw was agog, because I've never seen somebody write with such precision, like a keyhole surgeon, that he did not elbow me out of that draft. That it really was, okay, it's still, still mostly me, and then the parts that are very Paul are present and work within it. That is, I want to say, maybe the hardest thing that you could do in screenwriting is to write and collaborate with a previous draft in a way that is not destructive. That, to me, I'm like, wow, that's the benchmark. I don't know that I could do that today. He really is the best of the best.
Wow, that's great. And what did he bring to it that felt right? What were the bits that you because, like I say, those moments can be really difficult where director comes on and just goes, cool, well, I'm going to redo all this and all the best, don't even speak to you anymore, we're not interested in the writer. But it seems like you were heavily involved in the process, exec producer as well, credit, but you were also seemed like you were massively involved and on set, etc.
Well, yeah, yes and no, actually. I mean, once my draft was complete and went to Paul, I saw his draft, but I'm not giving him notes in his draft. He's the director. He's going to do what he's going to do.
Right.
The thing that was pleasant was just how empathetic his writing was to what I was trying to do. And as far as what he brought to it, the main thing that he brought to it is there's so much of his personality that shapes the tone of that movie. But he's building on the ambition to talk about kindness and make the tone of kindness present in the movie. That the thing that he brought in that draft specifically was taking moments of warmth, making them warmer. That was the thing that he really injected. And as far as on set, you're very kind to say, yes, I'm the only credited writer. That's the WGA thing. There are other writers involved, which is to say, Paul did his draft, but ended up not being credited because it was a fairly light pass, but a vital pass. But Paul is a very open, collaborative process on set, as people know. That means lots of improv, from the acting, but also he brings in, a punch-up writer or two every week on set. So people are coming in to just throw jokes in. It's just a very open atmosphere. Wow. Because the fact is, like, the idea of saying everybody get out of the way, I'm being funny, like, that's not going to work.
No,
you have to. It's a crowd dynamic. It's the reason why it's great to go straight to Amazon, of course, and create incredible service. But the most fun is watching in a theater with 200 people because we're in it together.
Yeah,
that's the way comedy plays best.
Yeah,
we did have Jason Statham next to us.
You need Jason Statham laughing at someone getting whipped on the ass with a karate belt. That's what you need.
That's what you need every time you go to the cinema. Every time.
Yeah, I think Jason needs to step up and do that a bit more often.
Yeah,
let's get Jason. Let's get Jason down to City World.
Yeah,
get him just going from screen to screen just for that moment.
That moment,
perfect,
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So look, I mean, I don't know if Giles is ready to go back to the drawing board, but I'd kind of be interested to know a little bit of the building blocks of getting from games into film, and maybe some of the struggles along the way. It would be kind of cool to cover that territory.
Well, the thing that's interesting about games is that when you're writing a game, so movies basically for the last 120 years have been 2 hours and somebody learns something about themselves. The end. We're working games for 20 years. I still couldn't really tell you what a game is because it's such an amorphous medium, which is to say Angry Birds is a game as much as Grand Theft Auto is a game, as much as Boyfriend Dungeon is a game. There is no overlap in those games between the technology, the audience, the style, the game mechanics, who's playing them, what they're playing it on. They're all islands unto themselves. Some of them have overlap, some of them don't. But when you're designing a game or writing a game, you are almost every time, to some extent, creating a new equation by which narrative will be delivered to the audience. And once you do that, you are still collaborating with, as we say, an actor who doesn't know their lines, which is the player. But ultimately, you're in collaboration with a stranger on the final experience. That to me is enormously joyful because you're like, wow, I wonder what they're going to do. Yes, you create parameters, but how are they going to feel about it? And how are they going to try and push against them or go with them or whatever? The downside is it's very hard to polish to a high shine that experience. Whereas on movies, it's all about the high shine because it's specific. It's a single voice, a single vision. Director says we're going this way, and we're going to polish that path. It's like being a whatever it is, ice curling. Right in front of the little thing. Right, they're not doing the whole rink. In games, we're trying to do the whole rink, so you can't get the whole thing polished. In movies, you're just doing the bit in front of the thing going across the ice. Wow, I wish I could remember what it's called. Curling. That's what it's called.
Curling. Yeah. Maybe you should have like a keyboard curler just to keep your keyboard
polished
in check as you're writing.
Love that idea to get rid of some of these Cheeto fingerprints on the keyboard. But
other products are available.
Right, other Cheetos are available. Hot flaming. Why not? Try them out.
Yeah, why not?
But to answer your question, I always wanted to do both. Always wanted to do games. Always wanted to do movies. I was passionate about games since I was a kid, but also about movies. And while I was in the process of my games career, which still on goes, I wrote a spec which was outside the wire. I wrote that spec, I want to say maybe 15 years ago.
Wow.
And it got optioned at the time by 42, who at the time were a small company.
Yeah. And
then in the subsequent 11 years,
got massive.
They got much bigger, much more significant. And that option deal was just rolling as it was going. I was not involved in the development of the script at all. They took my draft and then it went to other writers along the process. Went to Rowan Athale, and then later to Aresh Amal, who wrote A Private War, great writer. Rowan as well, and eventually got to production. So for me, it was a very different experience than the Jackpot. That was, I was hand in hand with Paul on Jackpot, but on that side of the wire, I was, an island unto myself. Both of which perfectly fine experiences, but just that's the spectrum you can have as a feature writer.
Yeah. I mean, was there a point of struggle in your I don't know in your career in general of like,
I mean, every day.
Well, I know it's a struggle every day, but
get the Cheetos off his keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, like getting representation, having that kind of level of, being able to move the goalposts, when you have the right product in place. I mean, obviously, it is having a good script, But I mean, were there moments when it was like, okay, look, I can't get a job on this, or no one's taking me seriously. I can't get representation. I can't get agents. No one's reading my scripts. That kind of vibe. Was there moments in your career where you were kind of going through those hurdles?
As a games writer, I've never had representation ever. Still don't need it.
How did you get in the door then? How did you like you said with the
how I got in the this would never happen again.
Passes on.
And by the way, writers now who work in games don't need representation. That's just not how we work. It's a much more open door environment where you can talk to decision makers as opposed to the
film world where you can't.
Yeah, where film is very protective of its talent, understandably, because there are lots of people who try to get to. The way I got into games was I was this is going back two decades. I thought I wanted to be a performance artist, and I was at art school, and I was looking around at the percentage of people who were employed at the end of this course and seeing it was about 3%.
If you're lucky.
And I thought, oh shit, I need to do something else. I was very lucky. I had a tiny little shoebox art studio in an old abandoned chocolate factory.
Wow.
That happened to be, even though most of the building was completely empty, there was an Indian Asian production company that had a tiny little shoebox across the corridor from my one. And I loved to work at 3 a.m. The guy who was doing all the work at the production company, it was basically a production company of one guy.
Yeah.
He liked to do his editing on whatever it was.
Production one penny.
One penny? Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. I get it. Yes. Yeah. Well, it was a production one penny. He loved to edit at 3 a.m. We got friendly. I ended up moonlighting for that company while I was still doing my art school course, doing PR for Indian rappers, and then later segued into writing for Indian cable TV. And I wrote a sitcom that actually never got produced. But back in the early 2000s, there was a new writers initiative in the UK called TAPS that sadly now is defunct. I wish it was still around. And I was nominated for a comedy award for this script. And by incredible coincidence, there was a games company in Nottingham called Free Radical Design, made a franchise called Time Splitters.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Who happened to be looking for a writer. Yeah. For some reason, they happened to get in touch with TAPS and said, hey, does anybody want to be a games writer? And I was like, well, I do. I've been playing since I was on, since games were on the Amstrad when I was a kid. And I went overnight from this Indian TV show that was the budget for the show was £250 total a week. Went overnight to a $30 million game. No idea.
It's a very funny game as well.
Oh, well, I didn't write Time
Splitters.
Yeah,
but it is. Yeah. It's great.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to the people who did do it. Yeah. But went overnight from a £250 a week show to a $30 million game with no idea how games got made, what good writing was, any of that stuff. All I had was enthusiasm, which was enough to get me in the door because the barrier for entry at that time was low. I owe my career to that, but at the same time, kind of irresponsible but having said that, the company, the average age of people at that company was like 26. It was, these were the Wild West days of the games industry.
Wow.
And that's how I got into games. And the failure of that product was the thing that really got me on the path to responsible creative industry, having a process.
It must have been fascinating to be in that environment, looking back now, and the creativity of it all, and the hub, and the idea of, hey, we need to write this. You guys go right. Oh, that whole world must have been really interesting compared to now. Do you miss any of that? Compared to now, or do you like the rigidity of what you're doing and the fact that you can control your time and there's no madness around you?
Well, I think the problem is that we had too much control, but we didn't know that we sucked. Or I say we.
And didn't know you.
I didn't know that I sucked.
Right.
And because I was very enthusiastic, people kind of went with it, and also that people weren't able to, really offer meaningful critical insight because they, it's not their job to do that.
Yeah.
And also, when you first get in, you're like, well, trust me, guys, like you're in that phase.
Yes.
The problem was the budget was way too high for where I was in my career at that point.
Wow. So what did you learn from, Jackpot then, for the next one? Or because, like you say, this is if you discount Outside the Wire only because you weren't as involved towards the end, but with Jackpot,
I don't discount it. It's just a different experience.
And you shouldn't, absolutely. But what I meant by discount the fact that you weren't all the way through, in terms of where's Jackpot, it feels like you are. What did you learn from that process of as a writer in the edit room as well to bring to the next project?
I think it wasn't so much a learning as a confirmation of something, which was that, Hollywood does have some unpleasant characters in it. Some of whom you hear about, some of whom I've had the misfortune to be in front of. That is not the case with Paul and the people he surrounds himself with. That from nose to tail, every single person involved in that production is someone who is kind and thoughtful and doing their best, and is motivated by the joy of the art that they're experts in. Why would anybody want to do it any other way?
I think it's difficult as a kind person to get around the mindset of those that aren't, and I think that's one of the difficulties and things of getting in the industry a bit longer is that realization that there are just people that are wired wrong. In terms of they will do anything to get ahead. They don't care about people's feelings.
I think it comes down to we can bring that back to writing, right? Which is what defines character is motive. And the mistake that we can make sometimes as artists is assume that everybody has the same motive. But just like in the script, you're like, well, they all sound the same. Well, it's probably because they got all the same motive. We need to understand, and as unpleasant as it may be, some of the people you may come across have a different motive for being there, and being able to recognize that early, as opposed to just waiting until you are shocked, it is the thing that will allow you to continue, let's say, uninjured.
What bad advice do you hear a lot? We often can get good advice, all that, here's what to do, but what bad advice have you heard in your Hollywood world, where you just go,
bad advice? Well, I don't know that it's necessarily advice, but it's, all of us have the push-pull between, art with a capital A and commerce. And the sweet spot is in the middle. And that's not to deride the importance of art. Everything, no matter how silly or spurious, is at its best when the nucleus is something that means something to one of the people behind it. But at the same time, if that's the only ingredient in your product, it's just like eating a bowl of paprika. That's not food. You have to understand that stuff is seasoning on the other end of the spectrum, the other ingredients in that dish. There are times for many of you listening when you become or continue to be successful in the business that you're like, oh, this is money. That's good. Sometimes it's not good. The best advice I've ever heard that I still struggle to put into action is people, not projects. People, not projects.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, even if the product fails, if you're with people who you like, it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
But if you are with people you don't like, first of all, it's not okay. It's lonely, coming back to that certain subject, but also probably the process is pretty shit as well.
Yeah. Destructive and it's not worth the payoff.
Having said that, there is also no shame in paying the bills. I think one of the things that took me, that was a real stall for me before I managed to get even a career in games, was I had a vision of what I wanted to be and how I wanted it to happen, and being unwilling to relinquish any of the elements of that vision was destructive. Because I was like, well, it should happen like this. Therefore, I'm not going to, do a job that's going to pay the bills comfortably. Well, comfortably-ish. I'm talking about before I even got into writing. Like, I knew I wanted to write games. Even this is before I got into movies. I thought, well, it must happen this way. So I ended up, not being able to pay the bills, really stressing about money. But I was like, well, that's good, right? Because I'm a struggling artist and it should happen this way. The smartest thing I ever did was get convinced that I should just take a regular job. It is not stopping you having your artistic career. It's putting you in a position where you can relax, you can pay your rent, and you can work in the morning, at lunchtime, when you come home. If you got that magnesium burn, you're going to do it anyway.
Yep.
So pay the bills. There is no shame in paying the bills. That's part of the process of the client. You have to. And the other thing that I really want to stress is help other people up. I said it earlier. There is no higher honor than helping other artists pay their bills.
Yeah, so true. It's such a nice feeling to give people work, and it's so great we started that way as well. I think it's great. It's something you've created in your bedroom, in your office, on the train on the way to work. Just an idea has turned into something that people got paid to do, and then people are paying to watch. There's nothing better. It's an unbelievable feeling.
Well, more than that, like that's the version of turning up on set and seeing people employed is joyful, but it's also prideful.
Yes.
So, well, I did this. Look at this. I'm talking about get out the way of other people who might do the gig better than you, or if you're like, well, I'm at capacity, I'll take on one more. No, share it around.
Yeah.
And not because you're going to get something back, although you will, by the way. It's just the nice thing to do. Why would you do it any other way?
Yeah. It's very much the ethos of this podcast as well, and one of the reasons we do it. We share that love, send it back.
Because there isn't much of a support network, and there's a lot of the time there's a lot of closed doors and people that aren't kind or very helpful. So it's it really is genuinely very warming to hear your sentiments like towards the industry, and as well as all of the amazing advice about writing.
Then we put a little cynical bit on the end, which is
just to ruin it.
Not to ruin it, but it's about the composition of how you. Yeah, exactly. About the composition of how to present yourself there. That yes, it's important to be kind, but of course, as you climb the ladder, you're going to get doorstepped by a lot of people who are saying, "Well, will you help?" And I want to be able to do that. The problem is a lot of those people want the help more than they want to do the work.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
If I were to say, you know what? Yeah, come on do this thing. I'm putting them in the position that I was in at the beginning of my games career, which is it was a very bad situation to be the face of a product that I had fucked up. Yes, I learned a lot from it. Do I wish it never happened? Absolutely. Put a lot of relationships under stress. Blew other people's money. It was irresponsible. It was unprofessional. It was all those things. Your job as a person who wants to climb the ladder is get good. And I know that's hard to know, because oftentimes you're blinded by your own enthusiasm, as I have been many times and continue to be in some ways. But you have to do the homework. You can't just want the end result. You have to want to get in the kitchen. When I was a kid, there was I forget the fable, but the chicken who bakes the bread and asks for help from everybody and says, "Hey, will you help me knead the dough? Will you help me grind the flour?" And everybody says, "No." But when the bread is baked, they all want a slice. Help bake the bread for yourself. Learn how to do it, because then people can trust you. They say, "Oh, this person knows what's up. They understand how the machine works. Great, I can connect them, and that's going to make me look good."
Which is at the end of the day what people want.
Sure,
and that's
but don't be a chicken sandwich.
Also, don't be a chicken sandwich. Don't be a boots shaper.
Yes, exactly. Don't be any of those things. Just be a brilliant person who can help if you can. And I think that's touching on that is something me and Dom really like when we're producing stuff, or people are sending stuff to us to produce or direct or whatever it may be, is when it's not just an idea. It's not just a script. They've really thought about it and put a deck on in place, or even a rip reel, or they've got people involved, or they might have even got some money or an actor. Then you go, "Oh, okay, thank you. I'm not doing this from the ground. I'm not now, like you're saying, irresponsibly going, oh yes, another one. Let me just ruin this and not actually get anywhere with it." I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And especially when you sort of get, someone just says, "Oh, okay, well, help me make this film," and they're like, "Okay, what have you done?" "Well, I've got a script." "Well, how many drafts have you done on it? How much work? Have you done a budget? Have you done a pitch deck? Have you done this, and this?" And they're like, no, that's what I want a producer for. And it's like,
that's what I want you.
It just shows you haven't thought about things in a comprehensive manner. And I like the sentiment.
Yeah. But listen, the Jackpot is incredible. We, like I say, really loved it, and we're really grateful for you to come on and chat to us about this.
Yeah.
And it's been even better than I thought, because you've given us so much cool knowledge, but also a lot of food for thought as well with how we should approach things. So that's amazing. Thank you.
It really has. It was my pleasure to see Dom's muscles out. That's what I'm excited about.
I mean,
it's top. Come on.
What more can you want than
Talk
that?
about a hunk.
Right?
I wore this for Michelle Monaghan. I didn't hear anything about it. And
believe me, she was thinking it. Don't worry.
She was. So all she could think about. She could hardly get her words out, Dom. She was like, oh, I want to go to war. And if so, he will be my armies.
And I say all this having hung around with Cena. That's a hunk. Listen, Dom,
he's a hunk, but Dom,
Thank you.
sleeveless wonder. Listen, go out there, make your films, be inspired by this. Go out there and really think about what you're trying to do and your scripts, and get them to the place where they need to be. Like Rob has said, it's so important. Watch your second act, have a process. Work with amazing people like Paul Feig, but I don't just mean Paul Feig, because that's difficult. But what Rob was saying was find great people you want to work with, rather than just doing something because you feel you should. Yeah. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to.
I usually do like a special thing for the film, but I can't think of anything that's good.
I love that you're
send the lottery
ticket
machine back down the elevator.
Send the lottery ticket machine back down.
Usually the thing goes, send the elevator back down. Usually I can think of something clever that fits with the movie, but I've got nothing.
So you want to throw like a huge printing press down? That's your okay. Yeah. Okay, I can get that.
Look. Arnold Schwarzenegger took a horse up an elevator, and then he fired a missile at a bad guy in True Lies. So if he can do that, we can do a lottery machine.
Great point. Perfectly summarized.
And I'm so glad we ended this way. Rob Yescombe, you're an absolute star. Keep up the amazing work. Jackpot is out now. Everyone go watch it. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Take care. We will see you all next Tuesday, everyone. Bye-bye.